Telkom reported a slight increase, 0.3%, to 16.2 billion in its interim turnovers, driven by growth in mobile data and its IT business services revenue. Nadim Mohammed from First Avenue Investment Management is with us. Well, without unpacking these layers and layers of numbers, which of course is what you do, which we are teasing out of you, the big question has to be, is the turnaround on? From these numbers, can we get any insight?
I think it's still early to say whether it's going to happen or whether it's going to be successful, but definitely this management team is the best team that we've ever seen at Telkom. They're more disciplined in terms of capital allocation, and I would say they have a good chance of executing this. It's not going to be easy, and I think it's not going to be a one-year turnaround story, but I think they have a good chance of doing it. But what is worrying is the pressure on the top line. So you've seen voice continue to decline with mobile substitution. Data revenue in total grew about 3.3%, and the data subscribers, if you look at broadband subscribers, was up about 6.7%. So it's not growing at the same level as Vodacom and MTN, which is around about 16 to 20%. That is a concern.
But clearly, given the fact that we're seeing strong increases from their mobile division, isn't that indicative of where they should be driving their focus?
Definitely, but right now that mobile network, in my opinion, is still subscale. So they need to get it to a point where it can generate decent profits for Telkom. If you look at the mobile data growth, it grew at, I think it was 50% roughly, but it's still about 300 million, off the 16 billion revenue base that we spoke about earlier. So it's still quite small, and it needs to grow from here quite significantly.
So you're doing the right thing as far as management is concerned, and I think that was the discussion session I was having a moment ago. If you have got a fundamentally good business, and that's the big question, is Telkom a fundamentally good business? If you put good management in place, great things can happen. Yep. But that's the question. Is the business going to be worse or too bad that the good management can't fix it?
Well, I think it's got the best assets in the industry. So if you think about it, it's got the best spectrum for LTE. It's got, Vodacom always talks about self-providing to reduce costs. Telkom is 100% self-provided. So they have all the assets, they have the skills in-house, but it's really about a cultural change that's needed to monetize those assets. And to date, we haven't seen that happen. But I think it's they are saying the right things and they're articulating the right strategy. But it's for me, just having watched this company for so many years, it's going to be very, very tough to break the culture in the organization and change that into one that's more to a company that's much more efficient, and a company that's able to just drive change much faster than.
Oh, but turnarounds are like that. Turnarounds are never easy.
Yeah.
But my goodness, if you have a look at the board of directors they've put together, if you look at the management team they've got together, and today they announced yet another top class appointment, head of marketing. You've got to believe that this dream team that has been assembled there is going to have a better chance of succeeding than anyone ever before.
I agree completely. I think that this is their sort of watershed moment. I think this can be a very fundamentally different company in 5 years' time. It's just from our perspective, as when we look at an investment case like this, we try to minimize the risk of capital impairment for our shareholders. And with Telkom, we just haven't seen enough of the strategy. We haven't seen enough of the turnaround yet to say that it's something that we'd be willing to invest in right now.
Nadim, to pick up on Alex's point, you mentioned that a solid management team has been put in place, but usually we've also heard of shareholder interference in the past, interfering with management's decisions and the issues with rolling out the strategy. Could that still be a concern going forward?
It could be a concern, although I must say the CEO and the board have navigated that much better than the previous board. The key short-term benefit for Telkom will be about operational efficiency. They have, I think, somewhere around 19,000 employees. That's much more than any of their peers for this size of network. You could potentially even reduce that by half. But will government allow them to do that with its voting power in this company? I'm not sure.
As you heard earlier, Gugu is going off to Telkom Towers. Is that what they call it?
Yes, that's correct.
And she'll be having some interesting discussions later today. What is the question, or the one big question you'd be asking the CEO?
I would want to understand this next generation network. What does it really mean? What are the products? What are the services? What exactly, how does this transform the organization, because this is where all the capex is going. This is the key focus area, and I'd really want to understand, in a fair level of detail, what exactly does this mean for Telkom and the offerings to its customer base?
Because if it does work, that's transformative.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Vodafone strategy globally, I mean, this is the strategy. It's about quad play services. It's about unified communications, rather, and those seem to be based on a very, very sound strategy. If you look at all the fixed line operators, this move into broadband and convergence has been very, very good so far. Telkom looked like they want to go down this route, but what does it mean? And also in terms of our national broadband plan, what does it mean and how profitable can that be?
Just on that, I'd also like to draw attention to the fact that the Chief Executive, Jacques Schindler, he was suspended 2 weeks ago, and not much insight has been given into the investigations that are currently underway. But what the company did make mention of, Nadim, is that they did offer him a loan of around 6 million rand to purchase shares in the company. Is that normal practice? It sounds a bit surprising to me. Alec, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's not totally untoward.
Yeah, it's hard to comment on. I wouldn't say it's untoward, but you would rather see that money allocated elsewhere. We don't like to see that kind of thing happening in the company. Yeah.
No, sure, and we don't like to see excessive executive remuneration. But on the other hand, quite a lot of executives are encouraged to buy shares in their companies, given loans, interest-free. They've got to pay the tax on the interest anyway, or on the loan. But it just assists them in having maybe a bigger stake in the business. The point being, I don't think either of us agree that it's a good thing, but it's not unusual.
I wouldn't say it's unusual, but the fact that those shares were bought fairly close to the earnings update, that is a bit concerning for me. And I think the JSE are doing, they are looking at this from an insider trading perspective.
Now, final question. I've been told that our time is up for this segment of the discussion, but would you be buying the shares at the current level?
I would wait and see. I think it's too early right now to go in a big way. This is more for those who are willing to take a bet on a turnaround story. And I think from a professional investor perspective, it's probably too early right now. But let's see the full year results. Give it another year.